Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, and this lecture is all about process managers in data warehousing. So it is very important part. So in previous lecture we have covered all about system managers and their different types in detail. But in this lecture we are going to see what is a process manager, why it is important, and the different types with their functionality in detail. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the process managers are responsible for maintaining the data flow which is going inside and outside of the data warehouse. So mainly there are three major types of process managers. So these are given here: load manager, warehouse manager, and query manager. So let me walk through you with each of them in detail. The first one is load manager. So the main task of load manager is to perform the operations which are required for extracting and loading the data into the database. So as the name suggests, it is responsible for all the processes which involves the data loading and extraction of the data from the data warehouse. So the size and complexity of a load manager varies between the specific solutions from the one data warehouse to another. So it depends on the specific requirements of a data warehouse. So let me show you the architecture of the load manager. The load manager performs these three main activities. First one is extracting the data from source system. Next one is fast load the extracted data into temporary data store. And the last one is to perform simple transformation into the structure which is similar to the one in data warehouse. So we will discuss each of them in detail. First one is extracting the data from source system. So as the name suggests, the data is extracted from the operational databases or the external information provider. So the gateways are the application programs that are used for extracting this data. So it is supported by underlying DBMS, which is database management system, and it will allows the client program to generate the SQL to be executed at the server. So the Open Database connection and Java Database connection are the examples of the different gateways. So this is all about extracting process, which is first one. The next one is fast loading. So why do we need that? So in order to minimize the total load window, the data needs to be loaded into warehouse in the fastest possible manner. So the transformation affects the speed of data processing. So it will be more effective to load the data into relational databases prior to applying transformation and different checks which we require. So the gateway technology is not very suitable since they are inefficient when the larger data volumes are involved, which contains billions of records. So this was all about fast loading and why it is required. The next one is performing the simple transformations. So while loading, it may be required to perform simple transformation. After completing simple transformation, we can do the complex checks as required. So suppose we are loading the sales transaction data, we need to perform some checks, such as we have to strip out the columns that are not required within the data warehouse, and we have to convert the values into the required data types as per the requirement of the users or the organizations who is consuming the data. So this was all about load manager and their different functions. Our next manager is warehouse manager. So the warehouse manager is responsible for the warehouse management processes. It is very simple as the name suggests. So it consists of a third-party system softwares such as C programs and shell scripts. And the size and complexity of a warehouse manager varies between the specific solution. So as per the requirement, warehouse manager varies. So now we will discuss the architecture of warehouse manager. So mainly it contains four components such as the controlling process, stored procedure or a C with structured query language. Next one is backup and recovery tool and the SQL scripts. So these were all main components of a warehouse manager. So there are some specific functions which needs to be carried out by the warehouse manager that we will discuss now. So these given functions are carried out by the warehouse manager. First one is analyzing the data for performing the consistent and referential integrity checks. So different integrity checks has to be performed, and this is done by the warehouse manager. It also used for creating the indexes, business views, and partitioning the views against the base data. So we have discussed in brief what is partitioning and why it is required, and the different types of partitioning process. Next one is generating new aggregations and updates the existing aggregations as per the requirement of an organization. It also generates the normalization. So now what is normalization? You already know that. Next one is transforms and merge the source data of the temporary store into the published data warehouse. It also used for backup the data in data warehouse. So in case of any hardware damage, backup will be beneficial to store the important data which will be required for further business analysis. It also archives the data that has reached end of its captured life. So these are all the functions has to be performed by the warehouse manager. And our last but not least, query manager. So as the name suggests, query manager is responsible for directing various queries for suitable tables. So by directing the queries to appropriate tables, it will speed up the query request and response processes. In addition, the query manager is responsible for scheduling the extract execution of the queries which are posted by the user. So these are all the main components of a query manager. First one is query direction via the C language tool or a relational database management system. Next one is stored procedures, also the query management tool, query scheduling via RDBMS or a third-party software. So these are some main components which are present in the query manager. So now we will discuss different functions which has to be carried out by the query manager. So these were all the main functions of a query manager. First one is it will represent the data to the user in form which will be easy to understand. So the main point is the end user should understand the data more effectively, which will be beneficial for taking the informed decision. So it has to be very presentable. So the query manager will present the data which will be easy to understand for the end user. The next one is it schedules the execution of the queries which are posted by the end users. So different queries has to be scheduled if it requires longer time to run. So the scheduling the query will help us extract the data at the specific period of time. The next and the last one is it will store the query profiles for allowing warehouse manager to determine which indexes and aggregations will be appropriate. So it will store the query profiles to allow the warehouse managers for analyzing and finding the appropriate indexes will be required for the analysis purpose. So these are all the three main functions of a query managers. So in this video we have discussed what is a process managers and what are their different significance. We have also covered the different types of process managers such as load manager, warehouse manager and query manager, along with their main components and their functions which are carried out in the data warehousing strategy. So if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and also ring the notification bell to get the latest updates. Thanks for watching.